You know what your problem is?
I ain't got no problem, man. Don't tell me. Don't tell me what my problem is.
Even the experienced crew couldn't have imagined the raw energy that would arise if Scrappy and Khaotic were put in the same situation. The players and audience were shocked by the intense argument that quickly developed from what had begun as just another planned altercation. As usual, it started with the crew preparing for another round of intense multi-storyline filming. It was a thrilling set for LoveAndHipHopAtlanta, with the suspense that only reality TV could offer. The lines rose to the surface, but Scrappy's day was different. Relationship issues, family issues, personal stress, and the constant attention from the program had been pushing him over the edge lately. But today's tension was not just any stress, it was unmanaged anarchy. Known for his sharp tongue and even sharper attitude, the daring newcomer had been making a big scene ever since he joined the show. Scrappy, who had been in the spotlight for years, wasn't excited by Khaotic's, and he had no issue picking fights, especially if it meant attracting attention. Khaotic had been subtly damaging Scrappy's reputation by making fun of his previous relationships and his position in the love and hip-hop circle, and the two men's hostility had been rising for weeks. Apart from antics, Khaotic's recent testing, taunting, and trying to manipulate Scrappy had been driving him insane. Despite Scrappy's best efforts, he was unable to ignore it any longer. The producers set up a confrontation between the two guys because they assumed it would be simply another verbal argument, and that is how the incident began innocently enough. However, when the cameras rolled, they were mistaken. Without hesitation, Khaotic began to rant, his voice full of derision. "You've been on this show for how long, and you still don't know how to handle your business? I'm interested." Scrappy felt his pride stabbed like knives by Khaotic's comments, and his smirk only made matters worse. His mouth stiffened as Scrappy's patient began to become impatient. Despite his best efforts to maintain composure, Chaos's constant taunting was beginning to wear him down. For Scrappy, who was used to conflict, this was strange. Apart from discussing his personal life and relationships, Khaotic was also damaging his own reputation. Scrappy was not going to tolerate his identity being exposed on TV. "Man, you must be careful with your words. Never one to back down," Scrappy murmured in a spooky low voice. Instead, he pushed harder. "Watch my mouth," said he, "because I see it. You're not built like you used to be, Scrappy. You're just another washed-up dude pretending to be relevant." His words pierced the tension in the room like a dagger, and then Scrappy let out a sharp blow to cross Khaotic's face. There was a loud crack as the strike reverberated around the set. With his expression showing astonishment and unexpected anger, Chaos' head suddenly jerked to the side, causing the crew, who had been recording with their breath held, to scream. For an instant, everything appeared to come to a halt. The slap had set a fire that neither man seemed eager to put out, and now there was no turning back. "Really, you think you can just slap me and be done with it?" The moment he was momentarily surprised, he recovered his poise. He sprang at Scrappy, pushing past the security guys who hurried to stop him, anger blazing in his eyes. Zooming in, the camera caught the Chaos in real time. Chaos gritted his teeth and snarled. Anger stiffened his body. Scrappy resisted, his chest heaving from the adrenaline rush, his anger matching Khaotic's. Scrappy growled, "You've been running your mouth too long. It is now possible to see what happens when you can't close it." Staring in startled silence, the cast and crew were dispersed over the theater as the two men squared off while still under security escort. The strange silence was broken only by subdued cries and heavy breathing, and the tension in the room was unbearable. This was much more than a simple slap. It was a show of respect for two men who had had enough. The producers, too proud to back down, called a break right away to try to defuse the situation. The damage was done before the cameras even started rolling. The crew hurried to pull the men apart and drag them in opposing directions. The slap was symbolic of the stress, power struggle, and rivalry between Scrappy and Khaotic that had been simmering beneath the surface. Scrappy interpreted the slap as more than just a moment of anger. It was a declaration that he would not allow anyone, not even Khaotic, to try to push him away or treat him badly in front of the cameras. But even if the battle had been temporarily halted, it was clear that their hostility was far from done. It became clear as the cameras kept recording the aftermath that Hip Hop and Love, one of Atlanta's most explosive moments, had just occurred. As he looked up, he noticed that the humming of the crowd surrounding them was accompanied by a frightening calm. You could feel the tension in the air as Scrappy's muscles tensed. Bambi, in close proximity, could see the tempest building since Chaos had made offensive remarks. Because Chaos was nothing new to her husband, she also knew he would not be happy. Even though it was personal and the stakes were higher, he was constantly bitter and often argued with the other performers. Scrappy would not tolerate his wife being mistreated by anyone, not in public, not on stage, and definitely not without repercussions. Lil Scrappy took a single step toward Chaos, his tolerance becoming thin. As the raucous crowd started to complain, he remained smiling despite their sense of impending doom. Being the focus of attention was nothing new to him, but he soon realized that things had gone much worse than he had anticipated. Suddenly, Lil Scrappy raised his hand and slapped Chaos across her face, causing the rest of the cast to freeze in shock. As the clap echoed around the room, her cheeks were flushed with pride and contentment. Even though she had always known Scrappy would keep her safe, something inside of her sensed that they were inseparable after witnessing his fierce defense of her. While some might have quietly rejoiced that someone had finally put Chaos in his place for Lil Scrappy, others were at a loss for words because Scrappy's deed spoke louder than words could ever. Family comes first, no matter what. As the cameras panned out, it was unclear how this may change the group's dynamic going ahead. Would there be a rush of retaliation, or had Lil Scrappy proven to be his opponent at last? The mood had changed, yet the performance went on. Scrappy would go to great lengths for the people he cared about, as evidenced by the smack that reverberated throughout the room and would never be forgotten. Whatever became of this drama, one thing was for sure: it was anything but wildly chaotic. He rapidly realized that things had gotten far worse than he had anticipated, even though he was accustomed to being the center of attention. But seeing him stand, Scrappy's actions spoke louder than words in that moment, and the rest of the ensemble gaped in disbelief. Others may not have known how to react, while others may have secretly rejoiced that someone had finally put Chaos in Little Scrappy's place. No matter what, family comes first. That was the clear message. Although the show went on, the atmosphere had changed. The slap that reverberated throughout the room as the cameras panned out served as a reminder of the lengths Scrappy would go to in order to protect those he cared about. What potential effects might this have on the group's future dynamics? Was he going to face Lil Scrappy at last, or would there be a rush of retaliation? This drama was far from ended, no matter what happened next. Scrappy's muscles tightened, and the air was tense. Bambi, who had heard Chaos say something hurtful, could feel the storm building as she stood close by. She knew her husband would not be happy since Chaos was not straying.